So, I'm gonna do this one again. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. It's early on a Sunday morning. I just listened to the first 20 minutes of Freeze's video, uh, explaining why the funerals of Sinful the P has not taken place thus far. And I only listened to 20 minutes of the video and not the whole video in its entirety is because I got shit to do. So I had to stop at 20 minutes and go live and give my take on it so far. So, according to Freeze in so many words, progress has been halted. Sinful P has been back since last Thursday. He's been dead for like 33 days. And Sinful P doesn't have any parents. His mother has passed away. So it leaves his younger brother and sister in charge. And I believe they are twins. So, apparently one or both of the twins have shut down. They don't understand who Sinful the P was. They barely understood Philip. They think, in so many words, this is what Freeze has said, reading between the lines, reading the tea leaves. It's okay to do that. They are like accusing Freeze of, being selfish. And I imagine they think he should mind his fucking business. They don't understand what Sinful the P would have wanted, although I've heard myself that Sinful the P, and I heard from Sinful, would have wanted Freeze to step in and represent him properly, make some sacrifices, and hold it down for him. He knew that Freeze would do that. And if Freeze needs to do that to, really hit home with his siblings, perhaps if you go to the Shanquilla Robinson video, that's the only place I know where Sinful talks about what he would want Freeze to do. He spoke about it in a hypothetical situation, but you knew that's how he really felt. So perhaps Freeze might want to go and find that part out of the Shanquilla Robinson video and present it to the siblings. So that's pretty much what I got out of the first 20 minutes. That they're not leaders, the siblings, they're shutting down, but Freeze knows, hey, you got to put your feelings and emotions to the side because it's all about what Sinful P would have wanted every step of the way. All right, so here's the deal. Freeze could know and have the strongest desire to represent Sinful the P in the way Sinful the P would have been represented. But if Sinful the P did not have a will and write this shit down, it don't mean shit. It doesn't. It's all about the next of kin. Now, being that there are twins who are the next of kin, both of them are not the next of kin. The next of kin is the twin that was born first. Okay? Again, you need to understand, I grew up in the funeral business. My mother was the first black female funeral director in a particular place in 1955 at the age of 26. Before Rosa Parks sat down on that bus, my mother bought and opened up her own funeral home and ran it for 50 years. Served the community. She was dedicated to serving the community for 50 years. And had my mother been the funeral director in the Sinful, the P situation, the funeral would have taken place already. So it tells me that one, the funeral director is kind of weak and not that well experienced. There's a way, because you get to a point sometimes with family, there's a standstill. The job of the funeral director is to continue to usher the family in the right direction. The funeral director does not get involved in the family disagreement or whatever, arguments, conflicts. The funeral director just continues to usher the family to the goal. That should have happened already. I understand from Freeze's video that his situation, Sinful the P's situation, is much like when his mother passed away. There were no provisions made as to what should take place and who should do what. In other words, apparently there wasn't a will. But according to Freeze, and it's believable, Sinful the P, the leader that he was, stepped in. He was the oldest and the next of kin anyway. He had no choice but to step in. But he held it down for his mother, had a beautiful homegoing service, and laid her to rest nicely. So, Sinful the P, seeing how that situation was chaotic, I imagine, at times, or perhaps all through the situation, he should have known to have a will ready. He wasn't prepared for his own demise. And let this be a lesson to you. I don't care how old you are. You never know when the Lord is going to come and take you. So you just need to be ready. Have shit written out, who does what. When my mother passed away, all we had to do was follow the instructions. We already knew. My mother already knew. She prepared us for that day ever since she was little. You know what she used to say? She used to get us together and say, listen, I ain't always going to be here. As a matter of fact, when I pass away, I'm going to pass away right here in the house. And we lived over the funeral home. You are to call such and such and have them take me out of here feet first through the chapel doors. And this is going to happen, and this and that and the other. We were prepared for it all our lives. And do you know my mom passed away in the house just like she said? And we took her out of there feet first through the chapel doors. She had everything laid out. There was no need for us to argue and ask questions and make decisions. The decisions had already been made and mapped out. We just followed the instructions. Easy. So, one of the issues is, again, they got a weak funeral director. 2, I'm thinking, matter of fact, I'm almost sure it's due to a lack of funds. Because the funeral director ain't putting nobody in the ground unless the bill is paid. You got to pay the bill first. Now, my mom has buried, there's so many people that owe my mother money. People who really didn't have money, and my mother went on and came out her pocket and laid their loved ones to rest. She has done that countless times throughout her 50 years of serving the community. I don't know what funeral directors are like today. Matter of fact, when I read the news, they be doing some wild shit. They be harvesting bodies and selling body parts and shit. Ooh. Anyway, that's besides the point. So, first of all, the funeral director would like this situation revolved. In other words, Sinful the P's butt be in the ground because he's taking up space in the funeral home. Ain't nobody got time for this as a funeral director. And again, if money's not the issue, then the funeral director should have already ushered them. If anything, Sinful the P's funeral should be tomorrow, Monday. Is today Sunday? My days run into each other. Monday. I think that's tomorrow. But I'm thinking that there's not enough money to have the grave opened. I'm thinking there's not enough money. Perhaps they don't have a casket yet. Whatever's going on, yes, there's conflict and confusion, but in all of that, the bottom line is money. And for Freeze to say in so many words that, I forgot how he said it, but like they're accusing him of being selfish or something. Well, perhaps they are aware that Freeze put up a Cash App a few weeks ago and said, if you'd like to support the cause of Sinful the P, he didn't say it was for the funeral. We don't know exactly what that cause was. And I'm sure he got some good money. And this is before Sinful the P came back to U.S. soil. And if they know about that, that would make them feel some kind of way in this very emotional situation. Which is probably why they think he's selfish and they ain't really trusting him. So if they got the money and the funeral director has received the money for all burial expenses and so on and so forth, there's no reason why Sinful the P is not in the ground. Or won't be in the ground in the next few days. So, this is the bottom line. If I was Freeze, I would go to the Shanquella Robinson video, present it to them. They will hear what Sinful the P said out of his own mouth. If that doesn't move and shake them, then step back, take your hands off the situation. You know in your heart you tried to do what Sinful wanted to be done. When people, or before somebody passes away, they might want A, B, C, and D. For instance, they might have a house and might want it to stay in the family for generations to come. They might stipulate that this house will never be sold to no one. It's to stay in the family. Well, that's a wonderful thing to want. But once that person passes away, it's not really a sound reality when the people who are left behind and are involved in that house, because you're dealing with all these personalities. Taxes got to be paid, and because this person didn't get their way in some aspect of the situation, well, they're not going to come out their pocket for the taxes. So there, I'll show her. Or, maintenance has to be done on the house. The house needs a new roof, ceiling leaking all over the place. Spit fall out the sky, it falls in the living room. Well, that costs money. Well, this one can't contribute because they got 4 kids and this going on, and they got their own house to deal with. They just can't afford it. If they had extra money, they would pay for the whole roof themselves. But that's just not possible. And so usually all the expenses of this house that's supposed to stay in the family falls on one person, and that would be the next of kin, the executor or the executrix, and it becomes a heavy emotional burden in dealing with the others who are not holding up their part, and as you can imagine, a serious financial burden. So again, that was an example of a situation how what the deceased has stipulated to happen, in reality, it's really impossible. So although they wanted to honor the wish of keeping this family home in the family for generations to come, they have to end up selling it. And then there's a big fight over that. Because the person who kicked out the money for the new roof, who kicked out the money for the new boiler, who made repairs, who's been paying the taxes and all that, they rightfully feel they should get all their money back for all that they've done. Right? And the people, the members who should have been contributing but didn't, they have no concept of the stress and the aggravation that the main person has been going through, who's been taking care of everything in the house. And even if they do have a concept, sometimes they just don't give a fuck. They don't think that person is owed anything. Give me my half. So, again, if they know, whether they saw themselves or somebody whispered in their ears, yo, watch that nigga Freeze, man. He getting cash halves on Sinful name. Did he help you? Did he kick out some money to get him back over here? Is he going to pay for the funeral to go to Vegas? I'm not saying he wouldn't foot the bill or anything. I'm just saying I know what happens. Perhaps they ask Freeze to pay for something or whatever, foot the bill. Maybe Freeze ain't got it. Look, if money is the issue, somebody go ahead and get the message to Freeze and tell that nigga put up a GoFundMe. You'll get the money for all that you and Sinful would like to see for his going home service. Funeral in Chicago, funeral in Vegas. Just go ahead and put up a GoFundMe. Because if Sinful had the money, it wouldn't be an issue. If Sinful had life insurance, it shouldn't be an issue. Niggas broke. It's okay. He ain't the first pimp to die broke, and certainly ain't gonna be the last. He ain't the first individual to die broke, certainly ain't gonna be the last. Shit happens. You ain't prepared. So go ahead and put up a GoFundMe. Make the beneficiary of the GoFundMe the next of kin. get the money up, and do what it is. But then again, that might not be a good idea because it'll be a whole lot of money in that GoFundMe. And the next of kin is the beneficiary. Fuck, we gonna fly him out to Vegas for? Put the nigga in the grave. Pocket this the rest of this money. Buy me a house. Look, I don't know what else to say other than you got a weak ass funeral director because y'all should have been guided already. The church or whatever should have been set up. Viewing at 10 a.m., funeral at 11 at such and such church. The remains will be interred at such and such cemetery. Headstone purchase. Grave opening paid for. If the grave needs a vault or whatever, that should be paid for. All tips should be allocated or ready to pay the chauffeur, the pastor, the grave diggers, all of that shit. And if anybody can learn a lesson from this situation at this point, I would say get yourself a will. I think you can find wills online and write it out. Be ready. That will might not be pulled out until 65 years from now, but it's okay. Be ready. Every 5 years, update it. Maybe you accumulated a house. At the time you wrote the will, you didn't have a house. Update your will. Maybe who you designated to be the executor or executrix has passed away, or they incapacitated where they would not be able to handle all the duties you would like them to. Update your will. Maybe you got a wayward child who ain't worth shit, and you need to cut him out because you know he ain't gonna do nothing with your money but smoke it up and crack. Cut the nigga out. Update your will. If you ain't learned nothing yet in this situation, I don't care if you're 25, even celebrities, even the teenage celebrities, when they come out, guess what? The little niggas got wills. Their lawyers in the business make sure they have one. But I'm only 16. What do I need a will for? Design a will. So that way, there's no confusion. It should cut down the arguments. I remember in my great aunt's will, she had a brownstone in Brooklyn. We going back in the 80s. My goodness, if she would have lived long enough. Well, she was in her 80s at the time of passing. But brownstone in Brooklyn is like $3-4 million today. Her brownstone is worth millions. But you know what it sold for in the 80s? I ain't going to say. Nowhere near $1 million. But in her will, she left things, everything, money to how many family members? I think it had to be 12 family members, nieces and nephews and cousins. And it said in her will, the house is to be sold and divided evenly between such and such, such and such, such and such, such and such, and such, and that person too. And she said, if anybody fights over anything, you will get nothing. And didn't nobody fight over shit. So Again, I can't press upon you enough. Make out your will. You in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s listening to this video, shit, you better look. You ain't going to be here as long as you have been. You need to have a will on deck. Come on now. Let me go to the chat. Hey, have a scam down pat, which is at risk, but not what to do after their death, which is for sure. Do they give a time limit on keeping the body? I've seen situations where a funeral was so frustrated with the family that they were able to convince the family to use another funeral director. So it's a lot of paperwork and shit you got to do meticulously to transfer the body from one funeral home to the next funeral home. The funeral director will get paid up until the point all the services he provided while the body was in his care. And then the next funeral director will get paid from that point on. But ain't nobody gonna hold a body up in their place for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a year, 2 years, because the family can't. Get the fuck out of here. That's just not gonna happen. A strong funeral director would have that family very close to the goal, like 98% to the goal of burying Sinful the P. As a funeral director, you are not to get involved in the squabbles of a family. You don't take sides, none of that. This one come to you complaining about this family member, you focus them, keep them focused on the goal. The goal is to have a funeral and bury your dearly departed mother. That should be the focus, my dear. What are we focusing on? Giving your mother the proper homegoing that she deserved. Now, I did not know your mother, but looking and judging you, I can see that she was a wonderful woman. And she would not be pleased with what is going on right now. So we are going to honor your mother, all she has done from you from the moment she realized you was in her womb. And we are going to honor her because she is deserving of that. And we are going to give her a funeral, a homegoing service that is befitting for such a wonderful woman your mother was. Keep them focused. Keep them focused. Now, on the inside, you like, if y'all don't stop this bullshit, ain't nobody got time for this. Go on, put your mama in the grave. Damn it. That's what you really want to say. But no, your mother needs to be honored to the best of all of our abilities. See how that works? Hey, Tanya, good to see you. Welcome. Thank you. Why feet first? Because you don't walk on your head, do you? Even Jumanji had to shout to that last statement. He said, oh boy, what a question. So, At this point in time, Freeze really needs to step back. I understand his position. I understand how he must feel. But just like I gave the example of a mother or a grandmother wanting a house to stay in the family down through the generations, in reality, sometimes it's just not possible. And in this situation, we understand that Sinful the P, knowing his siblings, probably knew that they were a couple of assholes and don't have any type of leadership qualities. He knew the best man to stand up in this situation would be Freeze. And Freeze, out of his love for his dearly departed friend Sinful, would want to do nothing more but honor Sinful the P the way Sinful the P would want to be honored. But as you can see, in reality, it's not possible. And by you continuing to insert yourself, because I know you feel that you are just as much of a brother to Sinful as they are. They might not understand it. They might not have no concept. It is what it is. But in reality, you are not the next of kin. You're really not any kin. So you don't have any say. So if I were you, Freeze, I would just take my hands off the situation. Might be hard to sleep at night at first, but I wouldn't want that to linger on for you too much longer. You need to be able to go to sleep at night knowing you tried to do what was right according to Sinful to P. You tried, and I know you tried real hard. But after a loved one is departed, what they want is not always a reality in the real world after they're gone. So you go on and grieve, honor him in your own way. Hell, maybe you can have a YouTube funeral. A memorial, I'll say. A funeral is when the body is present. A memorial is after they have been buried. And just have a fabulous memorial on YouTube. Share some pictures. Have some family members call in and talk about how Sinful was as a little kid. We already heard from the fans of YouTube, but let's hear from people who walked with him, talked with him, slept with him. And I ain't talking about hoes. I'm talking about, whether they were cousins and, spend the night over each other's house. Let's hear those kinds of memories and honor him that way. Maybe go out to Vegas and have another YouTube memorial with the people he loved and kicked it with out there. Do it that way. Maybe rent out not a hotel room, but their little lounges or whatever they have in a hotel, and have a memorial service there. Because in reality, hey, y'all be quiet, stop. It's early in the morning. They're just waking up and they're going to chatter like hell. Stop, just give me a few minutes. I'm almost done. Funerals are for the living. They are not for the dead. I'll say it one more time. Funerals are for the living. They are not for the dead. So, Freeze, go on and give that brother a memorial in Chicago and a memorial in Vegas. The best way you know how, according to how Sinful would have wanted it. It still can be done. Amen. Amen. So getting buried standing up would be ideal. I've seen funerals where people ain't in the casket. They standing around in the party and they got on sunglasses and shit. So one lady sitting at a table at her funeral, dead as a doorknob. She all dressed up, got a cigarette in her hand and a drink sitting in front of her, and she dead. Absolutely ridiculous. But no, the proper way to transport a body from one place to another is always feet first. Feet first. All right, so like I said, I got shit to do. It's early on a Sunday morning. I got to go. They ain't gonna shut up. It's their time. It's their time to chatter and talk and act a fool. And it's my time to get ready to do what I gotta do. Bitch gotta punch a clock this morning. All right? Yeah. God bless you all. And pray for Sinful the P's siblings that they will come to the right conclusion expeditiously. Because this is foolishness now. They need to get it together. And I imagine they got too many people in their ears. Too many people in their ears. Okay? All right, I really gotta go. Peace, y'all.